Why can't he use SQL?
I probably shouldn't say that. Good morning, everybody. If you want to take a seat, find your way to the most comfortable place in the room, and we'll get this underway. Not looking at you guys in the middle having a chat or anything, but it's all cool. All right, cool. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Morning Startup. My name is Scott Glue, one of the organisers at Morning Startup. Good to see some familiar faces in here and people I haven't seen for ages. How you doing, Todd? So we run Morning Startup every 2 weeks. Rain, hail or shine, we get a cool speaker. Like we got Dave Smitho in today talking about entrepreneurial frameworks. Last week we had the Innovators of the Year launch, and next week we've got a pretty cool topic as well. But the way we like to get underway, so hopefully you're on the sort of startup space, you may be trying to get something off the ground or whatever, that's kind of what we're all about. And we like to know who you are. So is there anyone in the room that would like to do a quick sort of 20, 30 seconds shameless plug or announcement about what they're working on? You can do it us if you're looking for developers or a co-founder or whatever it is. This is your time to just get known in front of the audience. We're also live streaming this, so there's probably a bunch of people on the live stream go, ooh, I could use that service. So does anyone want to go first? Awesome.
Hi everyone, my name's Rowan. I love learning, I love coding. I've been a hobby developer for a few years. My friend Jason, who's a lead developer at CultureAmp, said to me, man, you're good enough to get a job. So I thought, why not give it a crack? Turns out the labour market sucks at the moment. I've applied for a few jobs, 600, 750 applicants, what the heck? So trying something a bit different. So technologies I've worked with, React, TypeScript, Tailwind, Astro, bit of Postgres, bit of Remix. The list goes on. Could work in front end, could work in full stack, whatever you need. I've got some resumes here. If anyone would like to talk to me, I'll love to talk to you afterwards, give you my CV. If you're online, go to rohannelson.com, rohannelson.com, that's my other email, or GitHub/Rohan Nelson. Thanks.
Wow, awesome. Rohan Nelson, good job. How many developers do you guys know that will stand up in front of a startup event on a live stream pitching for a job? Like, come on.
How many people are looking for developers?
Yeah, that's right. Me, let's have a chat. Cool. Anyone else? Excellent. I know. You'll get your chance, Curtis.
Can I stand up there? Or?
Oh, you can stand up there.
Yeah, over there. Oh, doesn't matter. So my name's Gordon Campbell. I'm actually based in the tropical island of Mauritius, and I've been coding since I was the age of 13. Started many projects in my life. My previous role was CTO at a startup in the island of Mauritius. We're the leading platform of a booking service over there, and I've currently developed my own mobile application in Mauritius, which is kind of a social network for foodies and restaurants to be able to discover food, place bookings, reservations, and so on. I'm just here in Australia just to discover the startup landscape. My aspiration is to move to Australia, so I'd love to kind of discover and talk to other founders and other startups to see what it's like here, and just to learn more, essentially.
Excellent. I'm just imagining Mauritius being a luxurious, exotic island, and now you're in Perth. I mean, Perth is fine. Perth is good.
It's been a cold morning.
It was cold today. Anyone else? All right, Curtis, you're up, mate.
Right, I'm back. Now, artist equity, developing water infrastructure for farming, water, right? So we've just had a bit of rain, but it's still not looking good out there. Margaret River is a tinderbox. Bush, natural bush, dying out, no rain. Bridgetown, no water. Greenbushes, your lithium mine, Talison Lithium, they're running out of water. They can't dig lithium out of the ground. Farmers, their wives are put in the gun key locker, hiding it, because they've got to put livestock down. It's not good. Guess what? I'm working on it. Going to Sydney next week for Climate Action Week. I've got institutional investors interested in what I'm doing. Right? I've got an engineer bloke from Sydney, met me yesterday, I invited him to be here, he's running late probably, right? But I've got traction in the eastern states. What the fuck? Having fun though, right? I started it here. Grateful for Scott's work and David's work, right? You're all getting to know me, the guy in orange, right? Bloke on a shovel, I'll get things done. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. All right. Does anyone else want to give a shameless plug and announcement? All right, Peter, thanks.
Thanks a lot. Peter Kasprzak, Innovator Australia. Just to let you know, a week from now, we're going to have our seminar on vertical farming and food hubs. So you can find it on LinkedIn if you're interested in the topic. Thanks.
Vertical farming. All right.
Awesome.
Cheers. Okay, anybody else? Last chance. Nope. All right, let's move along. So, a couple of things. Found a sundowner. If this morning's just too cold and you want to have a drink at a pub in the afternoon one day, the first Wednesday of every month, over at Nowhere Man Brewing in West Leederville. It's just a casual get-together of cool founders. As you can see, we're live streaming this. That is thanks to the Department of JITSI, Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation. They've got the New Industries Fund, which is fantastic. Like, it's just giving away money to startups, investors, the innovation ecosystem in WA. We haven't had this amount of money sort of injected into this ecosystem ever before. So get around it. We had that launch, Innovators of the Year, last week. But the one for you guys is probably the Innovation Booster Grants, and they also have the Commercialisation Booster Grants, or is it Bridging Grants, CBGs. That's where so the IBGs, they'll give you $40,000 or up to $40,000 for your startup to sort of get it off the ground. You've got to apply, there's conditions around it. But and the CBGs, it's up to $200,000 if you're more of a scale up, and you can provide match funding. So get around those. Thank you very much to Jitsi and the New Industries Fund for also live streaming Morning Startup.
Is that official logo now? Innovator of the year?
I've still got that old logo. I've got to hit Charlie up for the new one. We'll update the slide in due course. All right. And it is being live streamed by the fantastic people at perthvideo.com.au. If you need live streaming for your weddings, parties, bar mitzvahs, anything, get around them. They've done live streaming in the middle of nowhere with no internet connection. No idea how they do it, but it's magic. Ammo Marketing. So they've been with us from the start, really. They help us with meetup fees and things. By the way, I know we've got a lot of sponsors and stuff, but it's just to cover the costs of doing all of this, the food, the meetup fees, all of that stuff. We don't earn money from this. We do it for the love. So Ammo Marketing, they're awesome. Get around them, head to Ammo Marketing. Also subscribe to the Weird Growth podcast if you're not already. Who's not subscribed to Weird Growth? Okay. Have you got your phone on you right now? Can you go to your podcast player? Go search Weird Growth, subscribe. So it's Perth, founders, startup, innovation, interviews, really cool. And Beecham Group, if you need developers, if you need staff, if you have talent and you need a gig, reach out to Glenn at Beecham Group. They're really well connected in the Perth ecosystem. Can help you out there. Keep Space, they're providing our food at the back. Thank you very much. They started in Perth, started here in Morning Startup and Space Cubed. They've got a warehouse in Perth, they've got a warehouse in Melbourne. So if you're in e-commerce, you're shipping goods around the place, you're in 3PL, if that's an acronym that means something to you. Yeah, they've got places to store your shit and ship it around easier. So get around them. And TechOn. Now, we don't have anyone from TechOn in the room because they are over in Nepal with their customers, networking with their developers. So they've got really cost-effective developers based in Nepal, but it's all run out of here in Perth. So if you need developers and you want to, talk to someone local and have it all managed for you, it's a really, really good solution. I've used them. Dave used those. Has anyone else used TechOn here? Todd's used them. Excellent. Cool. Yeah, get around them. So that's Matt. He's usually here. And, okay, just a bunch of really supportive organisations in the startup ecosystem. If you're new to it, Space Cubed, you're in a Space Cubed property today called Riff. They also have Fern and Flux down the road. If you want to work somewhere, there's no place better than the Space Cubed places. Make sure you subscribe to Startup News. It's the best source of local startup information. Startup WA, they're our body for lobbying to government, so all that cool stuff from the New Industries Fund, that's pretty much a result of all the great work the Startup WA has done to promote this sector to government. So at least go and become a member. It's 100% free, nothing you have to do, just become a member, you'll get their information, their newsletters, invites to events and all of that stuff. Plus 8, they're an accelerator, they're a program to help you become a better entrepreneur. They've got an accelerator and they've got a sprint program where you can pay to go through a process. Really, really good. And TechBoard, if you've got a startup, claim your profile on TechBoard, put your announcements up there, and it'll go out to the investor-heavy focused audience. Any questions on these awesome companies? No? All right, cool. Morning Startup, we are Morning Startup on all the things. If you want to do a presentation one day, if you've got something the startup community would love to know, please get in touch. I think we're booked up until July at the moment with presenters, so you've got plenty of time to think about it. But or if there's a topic you want us to put on and can connect us to someone, that would help. Sometimes finding speakers is a little bit of a grind when you've got another grind going on. But speaking of speakers, this guy's awesome. Ian's not here, is he? Everyone heard of the Hum story? I know of Hum. So they started here and through the Plus 8 accelerator, little thing you stick on your forehead and it sends pulses into your brain to make you concentrate and improve your memory, and it was like deep tech, really, really early. They moved to Silicon Valley in Berkeley, and he's now back in Perth, but he's going to go through his story. So they've been through COVID, they've been through a whole load of stuff. It's a harrowing tale of startup success and failure, I guess. So yeah, come along. There's going to be a lot of lessons that he's going to share with you quite candidly. So it's going to be good. All right, and that's formalities out of the way. Boom. Thanks, Dave. Come on, you would have heard that before. You've been here before. It's just sort of hitting on deaf ears. Anyway, so we're going to get into the main gig now. It's enough from me. We've got Dave O'Smitho here from CERI. My sister-in-law is Kerry and spelled exactly the same. Okay, cool. And he's going to be talking about entrepreneurial frameworks. You've all probably heard of Lean Startup and Jobs to be Done and the hundreds of other frameworks out there. Dave's going to sort of, I think, go through some of them, and he's developed his framework of frameworks, and he's starting some sort of book club as well. So anyway, he's going to take us through some cool, interesting stuff. Please make him welcome David Smith. Just do the awkward changeover, throw that in there. Now, you do have to use this microphone for the live stream. Hopefully that's all right.
Okay, cool. All right. Probably should turn my laptop on. That'll be nice. Okay. Welcome everyone on a cold Wednesday morning. I hope we're all feeling good. I've got a nice spot to put my water and not knock it onto your laptop. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here at the Morning Startup. This is my first time talking at the Morning Startup. I've been coming here for a little bit, and it's a great organisation, so well done putting it on. Whose first time is it here today? Wow. Okay, I think that is actually some of the most first timers, so please welcome everyone else, spy them, have a chat, make them feel welcome. As always, I'd like to start with acknowledging the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the land in which we meet today. I'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. So a little bit about me. I'm a bit of an odd guy. I like to say generic name, interesting guy. I've got a background in architecture, where I did my master's at UWA, and a master's in data science as well, and now I'm working at CERI in kind of the entrepreneurial space. Yeah, see, there's some nods going, okay, that sounds strange. So what I'll do is I'll go through that a little bit and kind of give some framing for why I'm talking about this topic. For those of you who don't know CERI, which is probably a lot of you, CERI is a space for startups. We focus on deep technology, high knowledge, high value, high impact startup founders, primarily with deep domain expertise or PhDs, postdocs. What is it? Yeah, it was founded by by Charlie Bass and the Bass Family Group in 2015, and we've been running ever since. We've had some pretty cool companies out of it. We've got one in the room here as well, which I want to call out because I love Steve Sterling. So if you want to talk about startups, Steve's a great guy. We've had across a wide range of different groups. We've got engineering, life sciences, and G&S has just raised Purpose Ventures' fourth investment. So it's a massive, massive effort on their behalf, but we really try and create impact in society. So that's my shameless plug. Has anyone tried to solve a maze and found it easier to solve it from back to front? Right? Oftentimes it's because the pitfalls and the traps are set for when you're going forwards. Right? And if you haven't done this, as I think I see someone shaking their head, have you ever looked at Where's Wally and stared at it for ages? And you're like, where is this guy? I can't find him. And then someone just circles him and you can never unsee it. Right? So the goal of this talk is essentially to try and give you some frameworks to be able to give you perspective on what you're doing. It's really a different way of looking at the problems in which you're creating or doing, trying to solve, and try and get some kind of understanding of what I need to be doing. Right? That's what I'm going to try and do. But I'm going to break it down into three kind of parts. Right? I want to tell you a little bit about my journey so you can learn a little bit from my mistakes and understand why I'm thinking about these things in this way. Then I'm going to talk about why frameworks. And then I'm going to talk about frameworks. Okay? So my journey. Again, a lot of people ask me because it's a bit strange. I started out in architecture. And I found it as a really slow industry to affect change. In fact, in a second year, one of my lecturers said this industry will die in the next 5 to 10 years. I've got 3 years to the end of my master's, not a great way to start. But one of the most beautiful things about architecture, especially at UWA, is you're a creative. They don't care what you do, right? You can do anything. You can challenge the brief. They give you a brief, you're like, no, I don't like that. I'm not going to do that, right? Why would I do that? So you can use any technology you want. I was exploring GIS, robotics, software, all these different things while studying architecture. And the reason why is quite simple. I was a pretty bad designer. But from here, a couple of the lecturers formed a company called Intensive Fields Lab. And this is my startup experience. Daniel Jaffray, if you've seen him around, an amazing designer. And essentially what we used is we used different innovative kind of documentation techniques across architecture, public art, all these different projects. And the reason why I want to point this out is this project here, based in Fremantle, was the precursor to one of my greatest learning experiences. The fabricator went and saw how we documented this structure and went, hang on, I'm struggling for another project. I need you to come and help. I've got a problem. So, being cash-strapped startups, we said, oh, you've got a problem, we can help. Let's do it. Now, their problem was this. It's the K factor. The managing director came up to us and said, I need you to solve the K factor, right? For those of you who don't know, don't worry. Essentially, when you bend metal, it stretches. Cool. So I spent 4 weeks, right? I was not a great software developer trying to solve this problem. I sent it to other software, pulled it back into their current documenting software. I built my own geometry engine and went, yeah, this works. Only within these certain parameters, you know, your MVP. And so after 4 weeks, I went back. I was really excited. I sat down with the managing director and he said, great, we need it in production right now. We're 2 weeks behind. Okay, it's not going to work. But I thought I can try and get it working. So I went out on site with my new fancy script. I went up to the design manager on site and he looked me up and down, my clean shoes. Never walk on site with clean shoes. Don't do it. And I said, look, I've solved the K factor. And he just gave me this confused look and said, mate, we're working with 3 mil aluminium. K factor's what, 0.1 of a mil? Doesn't matter, there's 10 mils tolerance in every bend. Like, I don't care about the K factor. So I'd solved the wrong problem. I hadn't even solved it very well. But this lesson has stuck with me all through this time, right? I still think about that look on his face as I showed him this with like a smile on mine, and it just wiped off. But we were able to solve problems for them. We were able to automate these shop drawings from LiDAR scans, freeing up 2 full-time draftspeople. And it was an amazing kind of experience. But it was working with the people on the ground, the people using it, to understand the problem that we were trying to solve to be able to create the value. Now this sounds all well and good. It sounds like a success, right? Doesn't scale. Okay, so I've solved a problem. I can tie my time and solve it for one person, but it takes a lot of work to be able to replicate that. So I went in search of solving the right problem. And the reason why is, well, we're a startup. I needed, to eat. So I managed to talk my way into a national role at Hames Charlie with a little MVP with some software. And this is where I started my software journey. One of the things I found about software is I could scale this across multiple people and create further impact. The other thing is I learnt there's a lot of people around the person using your software, and you need to understand the value proposition for them as well. How is the software going to impact them? Now, for those of you who don't know, architects don't get paid a lot of money. So when I'm automating a graduate's task, the managers don't care. They're like, well, if it takes them 2 hours, 2 minutes, I don't really care, unfortunately. They're going to work 10-hour days anyway, so it gets done. So I ended up finding the right problem, building a quality assurance platform that mapped all of this in the background. That led me to the idea of data being powerful. I kind of thought AI might be a thing. I feel so good about that. So I racked up my HEC stat and went back and studied data science. And I took a startup approach to this. Every time I did a lesson, I was building up my capacity to be able to create value for someone else. I tell you what, that's how you learn, right? Solving problems for other people, understanding the value of this is really where we build up our skills. But I still had that inkling of mine, which is, it doesn't quite scale. And that led me to CERI. So I went to CERI in search of this idea of how do I actually build a business to scale the impact that I'm creating? Because I had no idea. I was offering some feedback to the course and the CEO said, David, if you've got so many opinions about the thing, come run it. So now I'm there. But the real thing I wanted you to take away from this story is my key takeaways. I always had a vision for what the future state would be. I wasn't happy with what's going on now. I was building up my skill sets and my capacity to create value. I was looking to scale that value beyond me, and I was looking to build a business around it, right? This is my kind of understanding of what this thing's about. And it comes from my time and my experience failing and doing different things. Okay. And now my clicker's stopped working. Let's go manual. Okay, so now why are you here? Well, we're talking about entrepreneurial frameworks. I wanted to frame the frameworks by giving you that narrative first. But why do we need frameworks? Well, simply put, entrepreneurship is hard, right? How many entrepreneurs in here find this difficult? Yeah, I don't even need to ask that question. I'll say everybody put your hand up. It is incredibly difficult. There are so many things that can go wrong. There's so many challenges in this space. In fact, I really liked this article by Josh Garrett, right? 64 things every startup should have in their data room when they're seeking investment, right? I will send out the slides as well if you want, but you can just keep taking photos. One thing I want to highlight is that product and technology, even though in there it looks like there's a few things, a lot of it is actually the value around your product and technology, right? There are so many different things that you need to do around the product to be able to make sure that you can deliver the value, right? But there's just a whole bunch of different things, so it kind of helps me prove a point. Now, the other thing is that humans suck at complexity, and we suck at multidimensionality, right? We can't look at this spreadsheet and intuit what's going on. So what do? We invent tools, visualization, statistics, all these fun things. I love statistics, by the way. So strange, never thought it. My maths teachers would laugh at me. But we invent all these things to help us solve these problems, to gain perspective, understanding, insight, and knowledge. One thing, though, we do learn is that all models are wrong, but some are useful. You need to abstract away information to be able to understand it. Therefore, you're losing something, right? So when we think about frameworks, think about this. All frameworks are wrong, but some are going to be useful. Okay, so what frameworks? Well, we've done a bit of research in this space. There's a fair few books in here. But really, what I want to say is that, it's nice to learn from your mistakes. I've learned from a lot of mine. But it's a hell of a lot cheaper, easier, and faster to learn from the mistakes of others. One of the things, though, with this is that some things you'll just have to learn yourself. Solving the wrong problem, I do think, is something that you will learn yourself. Right? There's no other way about it. So, we've got to this point. You may be asking, David, you've got an ultimate framework. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see it. You've been talking for 7.5 minutes. No, 10 minutes now. And you haven't told me what it is. Well, I'm sorry to say, but it's frameworks all the way down. It's infinite regress. It's frameworks upon frameworks. Frameworks are used to give you perspective of solving a problem. It's there to synthesize complexity and make it understandable to you, right? I've got a meta framework that sits around this, and it's my favorite frameworks feeding together and putting together. But the whole goal is that you understand what works for you at the right time. So here we go. Let's talk entrepreneurial frameworks. This is going to be rapid fire because I think I did this talk for about an hour and I've been told it's not an hour, so we'll figure it out. Entrepreneurship. I hope you like my fish. One of the things I want to say is we always talk about entrepreneurship, but I think what I like to think of it as is solving problems to create value. Oftentimes it's people who are challenging the status quo, and it is a team activity, right? You cannot do this alone. You can't. If you can, come talk to me. I'd love to write a case study on it, right? I'd be very interested. The other thing is that it's a craft. It's something you get better at. It's something you try, you fail, you refine. There's an iterative feedback loop. Always keep learning. Now, there's all these different frameworks from frameworks, right? There's a whole bunch here. One looking at acquiring motivation, raw idea, work your way through, iterate back. Notice iteration is always going to be here. 1995, there's a bunch that go back previous from that one. The other thing is, you need a team, you need resources, you need to find an opportunity to create value, right? There's a whole bunch of these different things. We're talking about 2004. Then you've got disciplined entrepreneurship, expanded and adapted. This is 2024, a new book. I recommend this to a lot of different people. It's by Bill Hillette out of MIT, and it's now got an actioning a company with Paul Cheek. So if you're looking for a new book purchase, like I spend a lot of money on books, I'd say grab this one. It's a really good one. But really, all of this comes down to one of my favorite pieces of this book, right? Is that innovation is the product of invention and commercialization, right? Think that through. Innovation is the product of invention and commercialization. I'd like to abstract upon this and say impact is the product of value creation, value capture, management, and conversion, right? Think about this when doing your work. If you focus on your research, on your invention, on your product, on your features, and neglect this, you will never scale your impact. It'll never happen. But this here, this simple little framework, is what I build a lot of things off, right? How am I going to create value or build the capacity to create value by learning new skills? And then how am I going to structure myself to be able to deliver that value? Okay, so now we kind of get an idea of entrepreneurship. Awesome. Let's talk about you. What are you doing? What do you want? All these different things. Has anyone seen Jim Collins' hedgehog technique? Hedgehog concept? A fox knows many things, but a hedgehog knows one big thing, right? This is a way of potentially framing yourself. It's what you're deeply passionate about. What can you be the best in the world at? And what's your economic driver? Again, you've got economics in there. Now, this has obviously been adapted because it's framework. And we also have Ikigai, which is an extension of this. Who's heard of Ikigai? Yeah? Cool. Awesome. It also adds what the world needs. I really like this. Again, it's that capacity to create value. But one of my favorite pieces of advice, and the kind of thing that always sticks with me, is a very simple one. Uncle Iroh. Yeah, so it knows a few people really perk up here. Everyone else is lost. Uncle Iroh from the kids' cartoon, Avatar, The Last Airbender. Not the blue people. Fantastic show. Watch it. Who are you and what do you want? You want to be asking yourself this question. When you're building a startup, it's going to be hard. You're going to be spending hours on this. It better be something you want to do, right? And then when you're building a business around it, you can shape that business how you want, right? Think about how you're going to capture and manage that value. You can establish that how you need. It's your choice. It's your business. Until investors get involved and things might change. All right, you the entrepreneur. I think there's always this concepts when people get into this. We see this as well. You have kind of three types of people coming through. Those with an idea, a technology, or just have a passion for entrepreneurship, right? Just want to do something. What we're going to be doing through this talk is I'm primarily going to use the flow of the person with the passion, obsessed with solving problems and creating value. But you can break down everything that follows, reconfigure it as you will. Again, it's your frameworks. Now, Simon Sinek tells us to start with why, and we usually try and say that as well. Start with your motivation, your purpose. This comes back to your root cause. Think the hedgehog technique, think Ikigai. Really build off that strong foundation, right? The thing is, entrepreneurship is a creative approach, and there's all kinds of frameworks for that as well. Fantastic, you guys are going to get a bunch of frameworks. We want to have the idea of creating knowledge, building up your capacity, incubating that knowledge to find ideas, and then putting it in the market and testing it, right? Get it out there, evaluate it, give yourself some insights. Or you can look at these kind of things, again, same kind of approach. The entrepreneurial team, right? I told you, you're not doing it alone. Go find people to help you, right? I'm telling you now, anyone who's out there thinking you're doing it by yourself, go find co-founders. There's one right here, CTO. All right. I like this framework of looking at teams. Teams need to be complementary, they need to be diverse, right? You want t-shirts, turtlenecks, and ties. Yeah? I saw this, I thought it was brilliant. iHub does some great videos on YouTube, go check them out. T-shirt, turtlenecks, and ties. You need the hacker, the person building the solution. You need the turtleneck, the Steve Jobs, the sales. The tie, the accountant, the business person to make sure everything's sticking together, right? You're going to need some customers. Who are my customers, right? One of the things that I do want to say is there is a distinction between beneficiary, the end user, and the economic buyer, the customer, right? Sometimes, and this happens a lot when we're in the kind of deep technology space, the beneficiary, the patient, the end user, is very different to the person paying the bill. You need to understand your value proposition to both, right? So how do we define a customer? Well, you can go through a bunch of different things, but you really want to get specific, right? You really want to break down their demographics, the psychographics. You can look at jobs to be done. We're going to mash templates together and put them all together. Again, you can connect with me to get these slides, and you can fill these out yourself, right? But the buyer doesn't sit by themselves, and this was something that I found out quite quickly, right? And it depends on how you enter the organisation as who you're going to be talking to. Don't build for the K factor if you don't have to, right? Find the root cause of the problem. But understanding the decision-making unit is really how you're going to kind of capture that value from that organisation. An easier example of this is to map it out, right? Look at who's in this ecosystem. Who can kill your deal? Who can champion your deal? Who's going to push for this? Why are they going to push for this? It's not just about the end user, right? It needs to be beneficial across the board. Now again, this may be in most cases. Some cases, yeah, figure it out. Okay, so now we've got a customer. We've got our passion. We're aligned to this. We've got to create value, right? Cool. What's the problem? When you solve a problem, you have the capacity to create value, right? You create value for someone else by solving their problem. Some key frameworks I really like around what problem to solve are they urgent, underserved, unworkable, and unavoidable, right? If you've got a value proposition where you're selling something that doesn't hit one of these marks for your customer, you're really going to struggle getting their attention. I mean, you can do it if you've got great marketing, but that's a lot of money, right? If you have something that's urgent and unworkable and unavoidable, well, they're going to come screaming at you for the solution, right? They're going to ask you for it. They're going to buy, you don't need to sell. Another way of looking at this is through other lenses, but again, we won't go through that, right? How do you find what problem to solve? Well, you can take the double diamond technique. It's been developed by other people. I just love this book, so I'm going to put it up there, right? If you haven't seen this, Design of Everyday Things, go check it out. It's fantastic, right? Double diamond, you want to explore different ideas and you want to converge them back. And this is an iterative process. If you've seen those post-it note things, design thinking, all of that stuff, right? It's trying to work out what problem to solve. I'm not a post-it notes guy, so sorry to those design thinkers in the room. But other ways to look at it is like, well, what are the jobs to be done, right? What are we actually doing in our roles that are creating these problems, right? Where are they? What's painful about them? And Clay Christensen is the classic on this one. He talks about milkshakes, and you can definitely go check that video out. It's a fantastic one to really give you perspective on jobs to be done. But once you have those jobs to be done, well, how do I formulate them into something that's useful, a value proposition? Well, there's frameworks for that like Strategizer, where you can plug this stuff in. Jobs to be done, what's painful about them, how are you relieving that pain, and how does it align to your product and solution? Right, the core is along the bottom, the extra sauce is on the top. This is essentially a late night TV commercial, by the way, if you just work from here. Have you been tired of scrubbing your... No, I won't go into it. So, okay, the next question you've got to ask once you solve the problem for one person is, are there more customers, right? You can get lost solving a problem for one person and keep iterating, but you need to understand that you need to scale your solution. You need to be able to capture more value across that. Okay, what are my market segments? Guess what, guys? There's a framework for that too. I really like... Actually, this is one I created you can see, this is why I didn't stay in architecture. I created this little Excel spreadsheet looking at mapping, segments, right? Across the top, you've got each individual market segment. Down the bottom, you've got a different kind of array of values for them, right? Are they wanting the solution? How painful is it for them? Do they have the capacity to pay? Right? Those kind of things. What's the barriers to market? By mapping this, you very quickly understand where you may or may not deploy your solution. And showing this to people may find other markets. So again, share your ideas. Okay, fantastic. We've got these problems. This is awesome. How do we solve these problems, you may be asking? Well, there's a whole bunch of different ways in which we can look at this. Are we creating incremental innovation? Are we putting together different solutions, different aspects of problems that have already been solved? Or are we creating entirely new systems, right? I always find words really difficult to understand, so there's a really good matrix for this. Are you entering new markets? Are you staying in existing markets? Are you creating new products? Or are you leveraging existing products to deliver to new markets? Or are you fighting around in competition land, right? Understanding where your solution fits will give you a different strategy to that market, right? This is a really useful thing just to go through and plot your stuff. You may be even looking at creating subcategories within that market, right? So Blue Ocean strategy looks at different ways to be able to create value propositions that are unique and different. But again, we've only just gone through kind of this first piece. We've created value. We've got the capacity to capture that value now. So let's look at the economic engine, right? Now, I did have a slide in here where I was exploring this, and I was doing some study on data structures and algorithms, right, in big O notation. Yeah, software developers in here. And I was like, hang on, like the orders of magnitude of scaling my business are very similar to the orders of magnitude of scripts. But that's a bit too nerdy for today, so we won't go into it. The idea is that you've got a customer problem, you're putting it into some mechanism, it's your team, your business model, how you capture and convert that value into some kind of either monetary, social value, whatever you want, just some kind of return, and then you're putting that solution out to your customer. How are you delivering that? So how do we manage the value that we've now pulled in? Well, the simple kind of models that everyone's probably seen this, the business model canvas, right? It's the idea of mapping your customer segments, your relationships, your value proposition, and all the pieces that come together, right? We use at CERI the lean canvas. In fact, we've adapted this. It's a little bit better for early phase ideas, we find, when really exploring it. But this becomes powerful primarily as a mental model, right? If you can interpret this in your mind and someone tells you their idea or you're thinking through your idea, start plugging in, thinking about different perspectives. Because each one of these boxes is really kind of just there to probe you, to think a little deeper about one aspect of your business, right? That's where you really start to interrogate the problem and the solution. Or you can write a 30-page business plan. Has anyone done this? Yeah, there's a couple, yeah? These are valuable in their own right. I'm kind of knocking it, but I'm not knocking it, right? If you go through the process and map this out, you're going to spend a heap of time thinking about what you're doing. It's incredibly valuable. Okay, so we've created value. How do we capture that value, right? This is where we can pull in some of that strategy thinking, right? Couple key considerations. What's my time to market? What's my level of profitability, my growth rate, my anticipated market share, and my risk? Some key questions to be putting in the back of your mind, because you can change your strategy or your approach to market depending on the way you think about these things. Scott Stern, MIT, Aaron, no, Aaron's not on there. I know Aaron's on this, but anyway, you've got different ways in which you can look at this solution. We find that a lot of people are looking at, architecting their own entire value chain, especially when we're in deep technology research, when sometimes an intellectual property play would be much better, right? Shorter time to market, still create enough value, and can iterate fast. It depends on how much capital you've got, can deploy, what your rate is, all these different things. But understanding which one of these, you can then drill down into it and look at the strategies around it. You can trial and test multiple, and again, it's just increasing your perspective around the problem and your strategy to solve it. You can look at all the market forces around this. You can do the levers on different things. Again, we don't have too much time, so I'm going to skip through. This one I actually really like. Has anyone seen strategy maps, balanced scorecards? Yeah? No? Most people not. Okay. So this looks really, really complicated. I don't do it like this because, again, I just kind of do weird things. I just like to put, well, what is my mission? What is my goal? What am I trying to achieve? And then step back, right? What are the key aspects that I need to be able to achieve to be able to deliver that solution? What do I need to do to support the things that I need to achieve to deliver the solution? How much is it going to cost for those things? Putting different perspectives at different logic gates identifies your risk. So just do a logic tree and map your solution back. Okay, so now we've created this kind of mechanism to pull us in. We've got some structure around it. How are we going to manage and convert the value we create? Well, oftentimes that's around a pricing model. You've created some kind of value here, and you're putting a price on it. Everything above that is your customer delight. They're really happy. You got a discount, fantastic. They're willing to pay up here, but you only charge them there. You've got some kind of cost to sell this. You've got some costs involved, and everything in the middle is your lovely profit, right? So if you think about this model and what you can pull and push, you can find out what your pricing is. Again, these are distributions, so a lot of people will want to pay different points in time. And it's not always a standard bell curve. This is where high pricing comes in, things like that. But think about how you're creating value and where you put your price. Because when you think about this, if you take that curve and multiply it over time, you get something that looks potentially like this. The total life cycle of your business, hopefully not until it crumbles, but you keep pushing off, but I wanted to show that it does decay over time, right? You may have some costs involved at the start. You then scale up and grow, but really it's the volume of your sales by the rate in which you get your margin and your length. So think about this when starting a new venture. How long is this venture going to last? What are the risks that someone's going to come in and take my value, right? If you want to simplify this, you can look at the standard hockey stick curve. It is actually a real thing, that's why I put the equation in. But structuring your business in different ways leads to different types of curves. What we often see is SMEs scale somewhat linear, they may have fall-offs, whereas some of the innovation-driven entrepreneurship, those big, costly things up front, they need a hell of a lot here to be able to get someone to take the risk of putting the money in. And if you want to simplify it even more, when you do your business model canvas, this box needs to be less than this box, or at least in some point over time. And you'll be honestly surprised how many people don't really think about this. Okay, sustaining value. Who's heard of crossing the chasm? Yeah, classic, right? You've got your innovators, early adopters, and you're trying to get into your larger market. Well, there's oftentimes a gap between those people, and that gap can cause the death of your company. But thinking about how you're going to go from here to here is incredibly important when you start up your business. You may have some people who are like, yeah, let's do this. I'll give you my money. Let's solve this problem. And then you try and scale it to more people, and it just doesn't work. And this is where actually you get your S-curves from. So if you've seen the fall off of innovations over time, this is where that comes from. It's the idea that as people pick it up, you get these problems, right? So if you're trying to enter the market with a new innovation, you're kind of creating this dilemma at that point in time, where do I stick on my current status quo, or do I jump to another? This one's what? When was this? 1987. Okay. I really like this. I just wanted to show it for one kind of key thing. Your business can go through turmoil at any point in time for things that you didn't see, right? Oftentimes they happen at different stages of growth where that crisis occurs. So you could get all the way up and this whole thing just doesn't work because it can't scale further. Or that some decision you've made hasn't quite worked out, right? This happens in startup land. Don't feel bad about it. Pick yourself back up and go create more value as you go on, right? Okay, so there's a bombardment of complex things, right? Still simple? So when I was doing some research around this talk, I came across this article yesterday, and I love it. Harvard Business Review. It's not about the frameworks. I thought it was really funny because here I am saying, well, frameworks. Well, essentially, this author, he was the CEO of the Kauffman Foundation and a professor of business at Syracuse University, essentially said, no, that's all bullshit, right? You can put in a plan, you can study it up, till the ends of the earth, but it doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work like that. And this is his solution. Iterate. Now, I'd kind of take a little bit of umbrage with the way in which he wrote this. I think it was being a bit kind of, obtuse. But I think the meaning behind it makes a lot of sense. You can spend all your time planning, all your time thinking through the options, all your time thinking about what's going to happen, but you never know what people are going to do. Humans are irrational, right? So think that through, build fast and iterate. That's why we see things like the lean startup. Build, measure, learn, continue, right? And I think one of my favorite ways of thinking about this is you need to be anti-fragile. So Nassim Taleb, he was formerly a trader on derivatives on the stock exchange. It's this idea of the opposite of fragility is not robustness, right? Robust systems eventually decay. The opposite of fragility is anti-fragility. Things that grow the more it gets attacked over time. Now this is again on the derivative. You can be working your way across here, having failure, and all of a sudden, bang, takes off, right? The takeoff outweighs all of these failures. So keep testing, keep pushing, keep iterating as you go, because sometimes, right, you absolutely catch something and people will just want it. And your job is to try and get it out there to find out what people want, what problem you can solve, and what you can scale to deliver that solution. Now, I heard this actually at a digital twin conference. It's one of my favorite things I've ever heard. Start simple, create value, scale fast. Right? They're talking about deploying a digital twin into a mining company, right? Like multi-millions of dollars. Again, simplicity is subjective depending on your domain, right? But what you want to do is get that MVP out there, start creating value for someone, and then test, iterate, and continue. You want to keep scaling. Now, we don't have time. I usually draw this out on a whiteboard, but this is my way of thinking about this whole thing, right? You've got you at the top. You've pulled out your hedgehog technique, everything there, you're understanding yourself. You're right there with Uncle Ira, you know who you are. You've got your team around you that you've used to plug the gaps to give you perspective. And you're working within some kind of problem space. Now, I don't like Simon Sinek's circles. I think the concept is fantastic. The circles never really made sense to me. I always draw it like an inverted pyramid, with my why down the bottom, my how, and my what off the top. Now, the reason why I draw this is, who's an engineer here? We got an engineer? What happens if I put big heavy thing on there? Yeah, engineer response, it falls over, right? So you want to make sure things are aligned, and they want to be aligned to your different customer segments, right? You want to be finding who those segments are, and these get infinitely more complex as you expand these out. Each of them are their own value proposition, your own network, your own business model potentially, right? Because they're all going to have different sales cycles. You then are going to be mapping out where your barriers to market are and really trying to find where you can create value. And you want to drive this thing through to be able to deliver it. Right? This is my way of thinking of it. But there's a problem in startup land. You don't really know who you need, because you don't really know what company you need to build, because you don't really know what the market wants, and you don't really know what the barriers to the market are. Start small, start simple, create value, scale fast. So to wrap this up, you want to keep your alignment as tight as possible. You want to make sure that everything makes sense. Everything's aligned to that value you're creating. You want to be able to capture that value, be able to manage it, convert it. You want to be so obsessed with your customer, you know everything about them. You want to know everything about their network. And you want to build a business that scales across those different customers. So what I hope for you is that if you're here with a technology, an idea, or some passion, that you can be able to scale your solution to the world, right? And I want you to be able to think about the frameworks you do to build yourself perspective on your way to do it. Thank you. If you want a copy of the slides, you can connect with me and send me a LinkedIn message to say, can I please have the slides?
Fantastic. Wow, I don't think I've seen so many frameworks busted at me in half an hour ever. That's amazing.
I did get it in half an hour. I told you it was an hour's worth of content, so we're just going to absolutely smash through it, right?
Someone out there has to have some questions. We've got a little bit of time before
Whether I have answers, we'll find out.
Now, this microphone is not working, but live stream, so use it anyway.
Smithy, bloody awesome, right? No, Scott, awesome, eh? Right? Well done.
Thank you.
Bloody oath, right?
I have to say yes.
keep talking, mate. Right? Do you like beers?
Well, now that is a proposition, because the first Wednesday of every month, right, beers with founders.
Yeah, I'm working with a brewery down in Bustleton with trial work, and I've got beer on tap.
I love Bustleton. Right. I'll take you up on that.
Right.
Open invite, anyone? All right.
No one's going to work at the end of this week. Let's all go down to Busso.
All right. Again, microphone doesn't work.
Yeah, so does that work?
It's for the live stream.
Oh, good. No, you had it on your slide and you had it on the introduction on the meetup page as well, but I still don't quite understand the statement of why all models are wrong. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, okay. So when we think about this I came at this from a data science perspective, right? And the idea is that we build models to be able to do different, distributions, different projections, right? Could be a linear regression model. The problem is you have all this data, right? All these different things, and you're simplifying it down into something that could potentially generalize, right? So you basically have to delete a whole bunch of information and noise to be able to get what's referred to as the signal in the data. So what we're going to be doing is essentially simplifying that down to something like this. I can understand this, I can get it, but I don't understand the inherent kind of values of every single thing within it, right? And the other thing is the bar chart, for instance, it shows you like the quantity, but it's not a distribution here. So if this is over time, you've just captured it at one point in time. So all models are wrong because they can't capture all the information. And in fact, even the data that you've collected isn't indicative of everything because you can't capture everything. So you have to simplify that down to what's important to be able to predict the problem. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Solve that. Sure. Hi, David. Very good information and very professional delivery. So absolutely, I'm sure everybody thinks the same. Since you represent CERI, maybe you can tell us a little bit about CERI, what it can offer to entrepreneurs.
It's not a planted question, I assure you. Yeah, so CERI as an organisation, it's a fantastic organisation. It's set up by the Bass Family Group. We essentially run entrepreneurial education programs through our courses. Those are some of those that I did. We have office space for those that go through those courses who are looking to scale those businesses. And then we help them through that journey of raising capital and going through the business journey. We're a non-profit. We don't take equity. We don't take IP. We're really just there to create a safe space for startup founders. We do focus, however, primarily on deep technology. So usually PhDs, postdocs, masters, people with industry experience or trying to solve some kind of difficult problem.
Like the drought?
I mean, depends, yes.
Well, you're going to run out of water shortly, mate.
Speaking of, I actually need some water.
Really enjoyed all the frameworks. I have many frameworks of my own, but I try and keep it simple, and my focus is always sales solves all problems. But there's a secondary one there that I'd like to ask you a question on, and that is, what's the framework to guarantee capital raising?
There is none. If you find it, let me know. I'd love to know it. But I think, like, if you think about it, right? And I think this is the idea of sales solves everything. I do have a little bit of a tweak on that. If you say, this is that, I think coming back to the value creation, value capture management, right? If I can capture value and sell someone on something, but I don't actually create any value, what do you call that person? Right? A scammer. It's like, well, if I'm going to sell you snake oil and it's not going to do anything. Now, again, sales, everyone kind of thinks that salespeople are going out selling snake oil. They're not, right? They've got some value to give you. They're solving a problem you're not aware of. Right? Their job is to make sure that they can create value for you because that makes their job a hell of a lot easier. It's great selling a good product, right? In terms of investment, this is the idea of those kind of questions that I posed before, right? Which is, how are you creating value? How much value are you creating? How are you capturing that value? And how much of that value exists out there? And then can you execute on that? They're the kind of simple questions. Because if I sat there and said, well, hang on, I've created a hell of a lot of value. I've solved, the greatest problem in the world. Fantastic. I can capture the entire world in kind of like constant time if we talk about algorithms, right? I don't have no deployment costs. It sells itself. All I need is, a couple $1 million to be able to do it, and you can already see it. It's very simple, to be like, all right, here you go. Or they're going to say no, and then you go find someone who's interested, right? Investors primarily are looking for things that are going to take off themselves. So the only thing they're trying to do, and this is why I like having a whiteboard when I draw these things out. I knew I wasn't going to have time, so I didn't pull one out. Also, you wouldn't be able to read my handwriting. Let's go to this one here. If you have everything in alignment and you say that big red box is capital, and it's aligned with what you're doing and the market you're selling, it's basically the hammer that smashes this through, right? So you need to sell that narrative, right? I've got the team in order, we're all aligned, we're aligned to customer segments, we've got a short barrier to market, I need your money to be able to capture this value. Right? The other thing actually on this, there's a really good book that's just coming out, I won't pull it up because I turned my internet off, The Zero Risk Startup. I was at a conference in Melbourne and this book, if you check it out, The Zero Risk Startup, I think it's getting released this month, is fantastic for raising capital. It's why do investors not invest? It's because of risk, right? If you were to say, I'll give you $1 million and I can guarantee, the government guarantees that I'll give you 5 million, 10 million back, you'd just take it. So what this guy has done, who's an angel investor seen many companies, is went to all his investor buddies and said, okay, what are the biggest risks in startups that you see? And they basically categorized all of those. And then he's gone, okay, how does a startup mitigate each one of these risks? And the biggest one is that there's no market for your problem, right? There's none of this. Like that's kind of like the biggest one. It's like, well, if there's no value there, there's nothing to capture, there's nothing to manage, there's nothing to convert. So that's a risk because it may be a new market. So you need to be able to identify and sell them that I know that there's a market here to reduce that risk. Cool. Ooh. Hello.
Another question? I don't think it's working.
It's for the live stream.
No, definitely not working. Anyway, so my question was how CERI is different from a women's startup run by Mia Friedman.
Which one?
Mia Friedman.
Yeah, so the women's startup?
Yeah, it's called like something startup.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing about this is this ecosystem is here to help,
Yeah.
right? So one of the things that happens is you've got all these amazing people helping people out, right? You've got Core Innovation Hub for mining, so we send people with mining tech there. You've got Curtin Ignition Accelerate, right? They're helping people around Curtin. You've got the amazing Women Network that's like absolutely smashing it. Mad props to the women in tech trying to change those numbers. So each program offers bespoke support through different groups, right? So we focus primarily on that deep technology piece, so researchers, PhDs, postdocs, those kind of things. Other groups will focus on other aspects, but really it's just where do you need support and what can we do to help? And that's what we try and do, is just kind of focus there. And as people come in that maybe more aligned to say +8 Accelerator, we'll send them there. We'll say that they're the best people to help you. Right? You can keep coming back and come to our events. We've got cool people around, but like go there and get the people that can help. Right? And that's what we try and do. Yeah.
Hey Dave, thanks for the presentation today. Really passionate. You can see that coming through, and I've got some more reading to do. So thanks.
There's infinite reading. I spent way too much. I bought a little like tablet because I spend too much money on books now. So I go read it and be like, okay, do I want to buy this book or not? I'll still get the physical copy. 1, to support the author. 2, to waste my money. and 3, because having a physical thing is really, really nice.
Yep,
Yeah.
agree with that. You made a good point about having a team. Just some ideas or some pointers around attracting people who've got a similar passion. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and this is why I love this kind of diagram. Yeah, so the question being, how do you attract that talent in that team? Well, one, if you go back to your hedgehog technique, your ikigai, and you're really rock centered, like, I'm going to solve this problem, right? And you know that there's like a market for it, and you know that it's kind of there. Like, it's really hard to find people aligned, like 100%. But like your job as a startup founder is to clearly and concisely tell someone what you're doing and get them really excited, like really excited to come help you solve that problem. Whether they're investors, sales, people in tech, right? If you get them so excited they're going to quit their 200K job at BHP to come work for you in a startup that's probably going to fail in like 2 years, right? That's when you know you probably got something, right? And that's kind of the job to do. So, my main thing is I've always said I want to create a positive impact, and I want to be surrounded by interesting, passionate people. Hence why I ended up at CERI and why I've done such a weird journey. The whole thing is centered around the fact that the construction industry is fundamentally broken, right? It's very wasteful, it's slow, it's inefficient, and there's a lack of accountability and transparency, right? Everything I have done for the past 7 years has been around solving that problem. Everything. That's why I'm at CERI. That's why I did data science. That's why I did architecture. Does anyone want to work with me? Right? But the whole thing is, if you've got that passion and you can think that you can solve this thing, then your job is just to inspire other people, right? You may not have the skills in software development to be able to deliver the solution. That's fine. Go inspire someone who can. You may not have the money to be able to deliver this solution, but if it's a big enough problem, you're creating enough value, you'll be able to get someone to give you money. People have money. Right? Your job is to inspire them. Dougie.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate the talk and going through all the frameworks. I've really struggled with the overwhelm of so many frameworks and different models.
Yeah.
So in navigating paralysis by analysis, how do you sort of hold everything in your brain to make a decision when you've got 30 models?
That's why I buy a lot of books. That's why, I have a note-taking app, Obsidian, it draws connections between things, right? I just want to be able to make it as easy as possible for me to get the information. So my bookshelf, like I know every single book on that bookshelf, and I know oftentimes than not where that piece of information I need is on that shelf. That's why I buy physical books. It's going to be like, that shelf, that book, that's what I need right now. And it's just there as a reminder. Again, start simple, create value, scale fast, right? Just go do it, try it. Think about what you're doing with some level of criticality, but try and deliver that solution. And the other thing, which I'm so happy you asked this question, is we talk about it at CERI, and it's been used around the place as, you need to have the heart, the head, and the hand to be able to deliver entrepreneurship, right? And the fourth H is a home. This is why these ecosystems exist. This is why support networks exist, right? Dougie is one of my support networks. I don't know why we've gone like Duggo, Davo. Doug is one of my support networks, right? If I'm having an existential crisis, we're down the beach, I'm having a chat, and he's like, right, this is what I'm thinking, Min Tan, where's Min? Is Min here? Or did he leave? He left, rude. Min is another one, I will talk to Min, he's around CERI. We're trying to set up these ecosystems. You want to have those people that can hold you accountable, that can help you through this stuff, right? That's what everyone's for. We want to be able to make WA deliver global impact, right? So we want to work together to be able to do it.
Fantastic. I think we've got time for one more question. Sorry, Curtis.
We can chat after, so don't you worry.
Oh, look, but his last point, right? Yeah, I was like on a show. Let's be passionate, right? Not talking to institutional investors. Dressed like this. Yeah, they're backing me. Passionate. Get it out there. Stand up from the crowd.
I think also authentic, because people can smell bullshit a mile off, right? And this is the idea of alignment that I always like. If you're misaligned and you're selling something that doesn't make sense to you, it's really, really challenging.
Love your presentation. Great job on that. What I struggled in creating all these systems is how to synergize all of them towards one vision. And what's your take on that?
Yeah, vision is actually something I left out of here. Let's see if I have it. I think that this diagram is here. Yeah, the vision is a really challenging one, especially when you're stuck in kind of the chaos and the mess. Right? I have this this kind of thing. There's a couple different ways of looking at this. There's a really good video where it's like on a train, and you're looking forward, and it seems like the train's going really slow, and it crops it in, and it gets even faster, and it crops it in again, and it's like absolutely charging. The further you're looking out, the slower everything feels, the more alignment you get around this. And as you step back, it becomes more chaotic. So, not to go into another talk, because we probably don't have time, I really like this. This is a good example of these kind of things. It's look forward and reason back. So think about what that future state is, what that change in the market is, what that vision of the future is, anticipate those customer needs and industry inflection points, and then be aligned to it. So my thing was, well, if I want to change the nature of the construction industry, I can't do that alone. Let's pull people around that. But what I know is that I need to be able to build solutions that solve multiple people's problems, so primarily potentially software, robotics, those kind of things. Then the next thing is well, what's happening in the future? I think AI is going to be a thing. Why? Because it allows that feedback loop, it allows that data capture. Okay, what are the key things that are going to happen to be able to enable that? And where are those key problems? It's just challenging. You've got to mull on it, think of it. I've got a notebook that's full of random stuff that makes no sense. I think if someone actually saw it, I might be admitted, but seriously, you just got to try. You got to test it. And the other thing is share it, talk to other people, because they may give you feedback that'll help you shape that vision.
Fantastic. Well, please congratulate Davo on such an awesome presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. This mic's not working. I'm just going to shout. Oh, thank you. Yeah, why not? Cool. Yeah, so you're all going to get up and do something really cool and innovative now? You're all inspired? Good way to start the morning? Good. Excellent. That's what we're here for. So we're back again in 2 weeks' time. We've got Ian McIntyre from Hum. That's going to be a grueling story, so please come along. It's really awesome. And help yourself to food at the back. Get to know each other. We're going to be turning this place back into a co-working space, so look out for the flying furniture, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Fantastic. Appreciate you letting me have a captain.